Are you an artist or are you an entrepreneur or are you both?
I'm both, as it should be.
Do you remember your first audition?
First audition? Oh, yeah. I was pathetic. I still remember walking with a blank face and I was like, what did I just do? I just fell in love with filmmaking even more. This is the purest form of democracy. Each and every person is moving towards the same goal for that one okay take. That song was erased and only my body shots were kept. They could only see a body, a waist, a cleavage, a navel. They're not seeing a story. They're not seeing technique. This is why I created a shelter called Mukti Manch. People are just having a good time exploring ideas and exploring their craft and devising a way to tell a story. It's too much for artists to do things by themselves. They hire a PR firm and people are talking about them through podcasts, through reels, through spotted here, papped here. Various things people do to kind of stay seen, relevant, and talked about. You can create what you want, but when your work releases, the work should speak for itself.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Everyday Empires. Have the wonderful Mukti Mohan here. She's a dancer, actor, entrepreneur, and many, many more. You have millions of followers. You have amazing shows, movies, art that you've created over the years. And I'm really excited to explore this with you.
Thank you for having me.
Your journey over the last, as a dancer, as a performer overall, has been fascinating. And then you've entered the world of entrepreneurship, which is one of my favorite topics. I want to understand a little bit about what drives you to do all these things and what comes to mind when someone asks you, are you an artist or are you an entrepreneur or are you both?
I'm both. And I think as it should be for each and every individual out there, like your left and the right brain works together. And it has to be the right balance between the both. So I'm quite fortunate. And I think the right answer to your question is a girl from New Delhi, Rohini, did not ever imagine that a guy with an accent would come here and then interview me. And so this is my moment right now. I'm really fortunate and grateful that you picked my journey and we are having this conversation.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. And I think it'd be lovely to learn a bit more of a flavor around how you got into dance, because there are influences from probably family. There's influence. I think understand your siblings are fantastic dancers and performers. So what moved you into the dance space originally?
I belong to a family of 4 sisters, and from that part of the world in New Delhi, it's the most unsafe place in the country for a girl to be choosing a career like this, to be a dancer. In Hindi, the word nachne wali, if you see, or nachna and dancer uh, was not respected at the point that we were actually choosing to dance, because dance was giving us so much joy. And I'm the youngest in the family. And I grew up in the environment, and all thanks to the eldest one, Neeti Di, who's a really celebrated playback singer in the country, Mukti Mohan. And she started it all. Like, she started dancing, singing, doing dramatics, and the bedroom was our stage. And we used to put the spotlight on, and we used to wear the bed sheet, and we used to do make believe, all those crazy things. That innocence is important for creativity and for also imagining things before they come. That's a part of dreaming, right? And I'm so grateful that our parents gave that playground to us. They walled and cushioned the outside noise and never allowed the societal, conformities and other things that that should be thrown at us. Not at all. They always said, study, but as much as you study, make sure that you focus on your cultural activities and sports as well. So we, at the right age, we were literally like put in a hostel And that was the time when we were exposed to NCC, being a cadet, playing an instrument, how to clean an instrument. Your voice is your tool, to learning Bharatnatyam for 9 years. And I got really, really fortunate that I got to learn from Mrs. Priya Dinesan in Rajasthan. So I think moving away from the city and getting into that system of learning and constantly absorbing your environment and learning from people and girls from different ethnicities and coming together and telling a story and stitching costumes to literally like sitting with the Renal pen and making your own cassette and making your own mix of music, to everything. I think it just played a huge part of what I wanted to design my life to be, the kind of dancer I wanted to be. Because I never wanted to restrict myself to just telling, like, the song should play and I should just perform with my body. I always felt the need to kind of vocalize what I want to say and how I want to say it, because I felt there's something beyond just the bodily expression. And even in Bharatnatyam, it is Angikam Bhuvanam Yasya Vachikam Sarvavangmayam Aharyam Chandrataradi Tamnuma Satvikam Shivam. So it's the Angika, the body, Vachika is the voice, and Aharyam is the lights, the costumes on you. Only then there is a sattvika rasa, the essence, the juice of it is felt in the audience, So this kind of carrying forward the story in me, it just became, I think I was so ready at that moment as a child in fourth standard. I was like, this is what I need. These are my tools, and God has gifted these tools to me. I just need to absorb what I want to and take out, juice it out and pour it out to the audience every day. And I get to empty myself every day. So I just felt like that was my superpower, that I could just like transform and become characters, body them, embody them, to vocalize them, to kind of become even a different gender. Why to like limit myself? So I was quite fortunate at a very young age to have siblings who were that open to experimenting, to being entertained, because you need an audience. You can't just create your own universe without somebody not, acknowledging that, oh, that was good, or this is, you can make it better, or something like that. So being in that social setup really helped me to kind of evolve my process, to kind of, even now I'm constantly changing. Back in the day, it was quite different. It was in Rajasthan, it was in a cocoon, it was so sheltered. And even before that, it was just amongst my sisters. And then when I came out of hostel, then it was this wild Mumbai life where, oh my God, the population got to me. And even I was doing psychology majors in St. Xavier's College. There, I was like, okay, the change of language, to change of locomotive, to kind of to all of the people who are there. Oh my God, like it was a wave of people, and then you suddenly feel, oh my God, like I know nothing. And there I was, ready again as a sponge to kind of like, to absorb it all. And I'm really grateful that this city accepted me individually. Like, of course, my sisters had their own journeys, but to be accepted as a dancer and as an actor, and at the time when I was trying to come out and audition as a dancer, dancers were called item dancers.
Oh,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Each and every person who was making the film or producing a film or directing a film had to sell it in a certain form. And according to them, there had to be one hit number. Even now, I think there's a promotional song, which is like a dance number. And whoever represented that became an item dancer, item girl, you know. And I was not okay with that. I was somehow trying to like audition, and people were like, "We will give you an opportunity," and I was like, "Oh, lovely! That's going to be an opportunity for me, and people are going to be seeing my dance." And slowly, I realized after one experience specifically, I shot for a song for 5 days, and it was like a burlesque performance and like a jazz number with the chair, with the stick, and with the hat, and with the feather, and the like, So I was like, okay, I trained in that because after my Bharatnatyam training, I went on training for jazz, ballet, contemporary for 1.5 years under Terence Lewis Contemporary Dance Company. And then I got to train with even Dance Works in Delhi. So I did like certain workshops here and there, and I picked up a few things. That experience taught me 5 days of being on set when that song was erased and only my body shots were kept. I was like, okay, that is quite an experience for me to train for so many years and realize that they could only see a body, a waist, a cleavage, a navel. And I was like, you don't see technique. You don't see hard work behind it. You don't see 5 days of dancing uh, on those 6 inches heels. I wish I could, uh, because it's been edited, so it's not even there. So I don't want to mention the director's name or the film name, but it just somehow it cracked something in me. It was very painful, but I'm glad that it happened at the right time. Otherwise, I would have gone, into this being the best item dancer of the country, and which, thank God, did not happen for a reason. At that time, it was like heartbreaking to have like, okay, I worked so hard, maybe like release the whole song at least, but it did not come out, and it made me realize something beautiful about the whole industry and also about the perception of how people perceive dance. It's not how my parents taught me. It's not how my teachers were teaching me. It's just the male gaze. It's the main, like, how people are seeing dance. They're not seeing a story. They're not seeing technique. They're definitely seeing something. So that made me understand that I was like, I have to train more. I have to figure out a different way to bring out my expression. And even if it is a bodily expression, it has to be expressed in a way that is communicated well. Because, it's as good as like, hey, 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 look up. That's my story.
I think I love this journey because hearing your story and hearing the journey, I can picture you as a young person, going to all the dancing, maybe even going with your sisters and learning this and performing for your parents and performing for your friends. And of course, then as you move through the profession, I imagine you got booked for more and more performances through the academies, through the dances. And then at certain times you got booked for like the big show. And as you said, for this performance.
Yes.
So for young girls now or young people now who want to become dancers and they're going through that journey of learning all these techniques, and inevitably, if they want to become dancers in the industry, what would you say to them to brace them for that juxtaposition?
A lot of growing up happens, and it happened to me, where initially I was thinking like, if you do good, then good happens to you. Of course, it doesn't happen in the real world like that. You have to evolve, you have to grow, and you always need that sixth sense to read the room. Not every style is for, especially the Western styles, except for the ballet or the folk styles. There is a commercial style, like if you see any of the Broadway musicals, or if you see any of the jazz stuff and burlesque, that is to entertain male gaze, and I had no idea back then. That awareness is key when you're picking up your specification, or also there are like plethora of dance styles nowadays that people are picking up, but getting into the specifics of dance forms are important for every dancers to know. But please don't get into the whole vertical way of dancing only for the camera, because that is a that is not technique, and that is something which is commercially something that you're giving out only to, like, only for a clickbait. You are not a dancer if you're dancing just for TikTok or a reel or a basic, or so beyond that, when you're working on a film song or something, you're going to really tire yourself if you do not work on your technique, if you don't if you don't come from a classical background, either train in Kathak, Bharatnatyam, Manipuri, Kuchipuri, Mohiniyattam, any style that you want, or pick a folk style, because they work in geometry, and that will give you an idea of how to direct your energy instead of throwing energies. An athlete can show effort, but a dancers are not, they're not allowed to show effort. You have to make it look easy. You have to make it look breezy. You're supposed to make it look like effortless, right? But there's a lot of effort. Like if you see Black Swan, or if you see,
Yes, yeah.
like certain dance styles, only if you train in classical training or in folk training, you will have that ease in your dance. Beyond that, when you get into the commercial setup, you will not get any chance to kind of now there are no retakes, there are no second chances, and you might be edited. So you have to have that much detachment, uh, and be prepared for the world out there, because that much of learning has to happen for you to kind of earn your respect, earn your footage, earn your time, and count your blessing if you don't get it in first go, because then you're in it for a long haul.
Yeah, I can tell that you're a dancer through and through, because the way that you talk about
Yeah.
the techniques, going into the science a little bit of the dance, and going into the history of the dance, and really becoming a dancer is a different field to putting a camera up and doing social media. That is one field, by the way. Obviously, I presume it's fine to go through that, but that's not necessarily professional dancing in the sense of performing in like a movie
It's
show.
also like if an athlete is just, just out of enthusiasm, just joins a tournament and then wins it, doesn't make him an athlete. You will end up injuring yourself, or you might have some injury later in the game because you're not trained. Like I trained for 1.5 years in the Western styles, but 9 years of learning Bharatnatyam and also knowing so many folk dances, I ended up learning so much about rhythm, musicality, sense, how to read the room, how to be on stage, how to do technicals, how to, how much to give in class so that um, it somehow reduces on stage. So you have to go out like 300% in class to kind of have a muscle memory of it on stage. So those are the kind of things that you only learn by learning. You will and by doing. You use it or you lose it. It's like a muscle. So even forming it as a career, it came like we didn't even think about it, like it will become a career. Genuinely, being a part of reality shows, initially when we were picked, we're like, wow, you're selected, and that was a victory in itself. Then later, then they said you're going to be paid for doing this. We're like, what? You actually pay people? We were that innocent. We had no idea that this could become a profession, honestly. And then slowly, when it becomes a profession, then you see who are, your fellow participants and who's your competition. We learned on the way that why certain people were having injuries and we were not. And I say, touch wood, that we were not having any injury because of technique, because of classical training, because of our teachers. So now I'm even more grateful, because I look back and I was like, yeah, that is the way forward. You are an athlete, but you have to move it artistically. So the more you kind of do it, you practice and you realize and you formulate your own way of doing it. My sister, Shakti Mohan, she taught me so much by doing it. She was a winner of this reality show called Dance India Dance, which was revered, and which was the first female to ever, win a reality show, which was seen by so many people. It was that. And seeing her journey and sticking to her training game is what I kind of observed. I emulated. I told you, like, I always thought of myself as the sponge. And I kind of absorbed everything. If she was stretching, I was stretching with her. If she was just like doing some fun things, I was like, okay, let me also become a monkey and climb a tree with you. And then little did I know that I'm also like kind of learning it on the way. Now, looking back, I realized that she trained me indirectly, not only my body but also my mind to kind of train, have a muscle memory. Don't just rely on being in the moment, because as an actor sometimes you have to unlearn and be in the moment, but as a dancer you need to have the other muscle memory, which is to do it. There's no other way. You have to do it. The way to move forward is to do it. So only when we do it, we're like, oh, it was a little, my elbow was here and not here, you
Yeah.
know? So even if it is a movement of even the pinky finger, you have to do it.
Yeah.
So everything is about doing. And even in Natya Shastra, and even in my learning, this is called Karte Ki Vidya.
Mm.
Vidya is knowledge, and karte ki is karne se aata hai. It's doing. It's while you do it, you get more knowledge of it. So the more I kind of like started copying her, being the monkey in the house, I started learning more. And then I realized that, okay, even in our live shows now,
Mm.
which we sisters have created our own show called Mohan Sisters Live, where Neeti Di sings, and three of us actually, we are dancers. We do our solos and duets and trios, and we interact and we build a bond with the audience. And that is something that we practice even till date.
Studying something for 9 years, the classical ways of the classical dance forms, Indian dance forms, and then even just 1.5 years on the Western forms. That's a very long time to be practicing
Right.
dance. For the audience, for people to be able to take something seriously, I think that's really the definition. It's spending that time, but also respecting the profession. If you want to be a dancer, there's social media, and there's kind of moving your body, and then there's having fun at clubs and weddings and all this kind of stuff. That's still dancing, but to be a professional dancer, there's the history, there's the art forms, there's the different types of art
Training,
forms,
practicing.
there's the training, there's the practicing, and as you say, you can see the difference. When we talk about business and numbers, there's always a bigger number. So it's sort of like, well, how do I know where I sit relative to others? How do I know if I'm great? There's some quantifiable elements in the dance world, of course. It's the certain shows, it's certain movies, it's the financial success of those movies, it's your own performance and the feedback, and of course there is the social media side and the followership, because people want to see you more and see and be entertained more about all the amazing dancing that you're doing. But what a lot of people don't see is that journey of actually working your ass off. When we're talking about greatness, when we're talking about achieving something, you've got to put the work in.
It is.
It's compulsory. Actually, it's not compulsory. It's the minimum standard that's required.
Yeah.
I think people understand that hard work is required, but I don't think they understand the definition of how hard that work is. And you're giving a flavor of that. So I just wanted to appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we shift from dancer,
All right.
performer to actor.
All right.
How was that shift? Why did you want to become an actor? And sort of, I think I'd love to understand what the thinking was.
I felt limited. Like, why am I not able to? I see smiling faces when I was dancing and when the spotlight is on me, but I wanted to interact with them. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to hear them. Is when that whole love for interaction began, where I thought the voice is the first initiation, and also the center point of how I want to share a dialogue and interact with them. And I didn't know this was drama. I didn't know it was acting. But I just felt this was a natural progression for me to kind of feel the need to voice what I want to say. And my breath was moving towards it. And my teachers started to tell me that you must train in acting because your facial muscles move in a certain way. And even in like, again, everything from nritta to natya to nritya, which is like a combination of dance and acting. There are certain expressions, there are certain things, even as a dancer, you can't help but it shows on your face. You tear up, or you flush, you feel more flushed, you turn more pink than the others. And why is that happening when the same technique is happening to others? So I just felt that progression, and I felt the need to kind of I have that outlet. And I think I love, like, there are certain people who just actually sit quietly, then they come up with an idea. I'm somebody who interact, communicates, and then then I would have an eureka moment. I'll be like, yeah, that is the idea. So I am quite a social person, a verbal person, and I like communicating. So I think it came naturally to me that I wanted to act and I wanted to interact. And beyond the dramatics in school and in hostel and even in college, I just felt the need to kind of be in front of the camera. But I had no idea why so many people are there in the room, and why are they not clapping after my performance. And I used to just look at them and like, how was it? How was it? And they would just move on. Okay, next, ready. And then, okay, now the clap is, now we remove this. And I was like, okay, there is a science behind. Something is going on camera, which I was not able to understand. So I shamelessly walked up to Mr. Anurag Kashyap and I just told him, and I was like, I want to assist you. That is when I was moved by so many films that Phantom was producing. Queen had come out, Wasipur had come out. That was a time that I had done enough of theater. And theater also allowed me to speak to people, but I had the quick reinforcement, because somebody has bought the ticket. 50% of the job is done because they're sitting there to be entertained by you, right? And you can see them and you can read the room. And you're like, if somebody's upset, come on, let me start my sur from here. So somehow I understood how to interact with people. But to camera, to different magnifications, to kind of knowing the mic, knowing my breath, how much to give, how much not to give, to learn all that, I was like, okay, firstly, I didn't have the money. And all I had was the audacity to to walk up to a director and say, like, I'm your biggest fan, just help me learn the craft. And I would do everything. And I genuinely did everything on the sets of Bombay Velvet. For 3 months, I was in Sri Lanka. I learned how to give cues to the costume people, to the juniors, to how to give a clap, to how to, script changes, to each and everything, like how an actor is preparing, how a retake is taken, how to, there's a supervising, officer, and then a director, and then how to capture things on a monitor, to what each mag is all about, and everything. After learning that craft, I just fell in love with filmmaking even more, because I was like, this is the purest form of democracy. Everyone is running out for that one single take, but each one has their own responsibility. And a sound guy is doing the sound, a camera guy is doing the camera, focus puller is, pulling the focus, and art is doing artwork, and each and every person is actually moving towards the same goal for that one okay take, the final take, but they're all moving in different directions. Then I got the game and I was like, all right, this now I know it. Now I can actually, then I understood how to read the screenplay. Otherwise, I knew how to read plays because I knew stage directions. And that's a different craft. People don't understand being a stage actor is very different from being a screen actor. And unfortunately, I don't know, in India, there's no system, there's no academy, there's no uh, process to things. So I didn't know where to go and learn, but to just jump into experiences and, like, be the sponge that I have been all my life. So yeah, that's how I just started working in it. And then I understood how to audition. Then I backed auditions after auditions. And then I got my first film called Thar on Netflix, which was produced by Mr. Anil Kapoor and Harshvardhan, his son. The whole journey began from there, and I also thought like the whole world had to stop for me to kind of understand the filmmaking process and for me to bag a film, because it has been a journey. Even after seeing my audition, people were like, "Oh, you can act. I thought you were a dancer." I was like, finally.
Yeah.
It was quite a journey for me to transition from become a dancer to become an actor, and now for me to just jump in and out. It takes, like, again, body does not know that it's jumping in and out. I have to prepare. But yeah, it is quite interesting and I love it.
The challenge isn't just the hard skill set; it's the perception change. And I imagine when you're going for auditions, and I presume you're representing, so your agent was sort of going, no, she's not a dancer, she's an actor now. You've got to change your viewpoint of this, and then you get into the auditions, and they're expecting you to dance. And you're like, no, I'm here to do this very serious this audition for you. So no, I can appreciate the challenge that you went through. How did you go about changing that perception?
You can't really control how they would take things or how I'm going to be perceived. What I had to focus on was in my doing and excelling at what I needed to do at that moment. So I think as an actor, you just work on every moment, every take, so much that you forget the world. And I'm glad that I somehow saw a glimpse of that during my moments of working with Raj Singh Chaudhary, the director, who was also the writer of Gulal, and also a fabulous script written by Mr. Anurag Kashyap. He wrote the script, and and beyond that, then I went to various casting directors and also texted them that, hey, look at my audition and my self tapes, or certain things that I have to constantly remind them that I act as well. Hey, hi. So yeah, because there's so many shows and so many people who are talented. So until unless you're not excellent at what you do and how you do it, I don't think people even would pay attention. Forget getting a call back. It would have been so amazing if I learned this, like when I started dancing or when I got recognized as a dancer before, because then I wouldn't have gone through those auditions. I wouldn't have gone through years of being a contestant or just looking at competition as competition. I would have been super tight in reading the script, nailing an audition, or nailing a script and, bagging a role. So that was something that I wish there was a platform or a shelter that provided that in Bombay.
As a performer, dance you took very seriously, spent so many years perfecting that art. Then as an actor, you don't necessarily have another 10, 15 years to perfect that craft. You've got to learn on the go. And of course, you can take some elements of what you've learned as a dancer as well into your acting, so it supercharges your learning. But what I heard from you is that you respect the craft enough that you didn't just jump into auditions because you're trying to leverage your name as a dancer into this other field.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You've got to respect the craft in and of itself
Yes.
in order for other people to take you seriously. So I appreciate the thinking. But how did you know when you were ready?
I started like recording myself and observing. And then I also asked other casting directors and directors to be like, can you send me a reference video? Like, what do you want it to be like? Because so it's like I'm a DJ, but I had no console. All right. So I just wanted to understand my own breath, emotions, expressions, each and every volume button, and how much to kind of have, and give and not give. Also, uh, camera catches everything. You have to be brutally honest, forgetting yourself and learning a new form of you taking shape right then and there. There's so much joy in it. There's so much joy. So for me to kind of like see that, and I was like, huh, I don't look like myself. Oh, there's something new that I read. So it's a lot of like observation, and also like watching world cinema to reading good books to understanding other actors and what made them do this and what made them choose a certain thing. What drove me was people, because I think you can dance like in your own room or you can just post a video about yourself, but as an actor you need a director, you need a scriptwriter, you need a cinematographer, you need a lightman, you need an art director, you need a team to kind of film you and project you in that light, edit you in a certain way. So at each phase of storytelling, I got more and more intrigued by this art form, right? And that's when I understood it. I was like, I'll give it my all and I'll do my best to kind of get closer to excelling this, because there's so much joy in like kind of, finding a new character in you. And I've I love the fact that you can be multifaceted. You can enjoy and change your vocabulary. You can change your language. You can change the way you used to think, in the past. So there's nothing permanent, which somehow, as a dancer, it's quite limiting. I'm aware of the fact that your body deteriorates, you age. But as an actor, even if I'm 90 years old, I can be a different character. So, yeah, it's quite exciting.
Indeed. Do you remember your first audition?
First audition? Oh, yeah. I was pathetic. It was so bad. I was so bad.
Oh my
I
gosh.
still remember like walking with a blank face, and I was like, what did I just do? Because it was right here near Warsaw, Aramnagar. They're like, this is the Silicon Valley of media houses, by the way. All the casting directors are here, workshops happen here, theater happens here,
Yeah.
which is why I wanted to build Mukti Manch here. I wish that there were people, and also casting directors are casting. They are on a time crunch. They have to book a person. They have their thing to do. They're not there to teach you how to act, right? And nobody tells you that you have to learn. And some people just like flaunt that. Oh, I've never learned it. I'm organic as an actor, and that's such a farce. That is, and even if you have bagged something, I hope and pray that you're gonna survive that for longer, because you have to constantly learn, unlearn, and evolve. Otherwise, you're gonna turn stale, because if you're not changing with time, not building a new vocabulary. Oh God. Like I pray that such actors don't survive for longer. Otherwise, what will happen to our industry?
Obviously, the rise of social media over the last sort of, let me say, 15 years or so has given rise to obviously some people who are extremely popular, who've been given the camera. The team that you mentioned before, sometimes you can just have an iPhone and a sort of backlight and perhaps not produce as good a quality, but there's something there that someone can enjoy and engage with. Now, because of the commercial reality of shows and films and the engagement that's required from people nowadays, you're seeing more social media stars move into the TV and movie space, which is probably amazing. And I think it's great that obviously more people are getting an opportunity. But at the same time, they're getting it because they have engagement and followers, not necessarily because they've honed a craft. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not good enough. It just means that there's a different dimension to the purpose of their role in the movie. It's not just the fact they've been put into that character. It's because they have, 10 million followers or whatever. A lot of it is down to actually commercial reality. And money is influencing the creative process.
For sure.
Money is influencing, or I should say more profits are influencing how movies are getting created. An actor right now who is 18 or 19 years old who wants to go on this journey, there is a decision to be made about where they spend their time. Do they spend their time building a social media following? Do they spend their time honing a craft?
I have never believed that hard work equals talent. There is no equation like that. Success versus talent ratio doesn't match. A lot of things need to be balanced for sure in today's day. But what kind of a social media game you're having, that really plays an important role, because if you are roasting and hate mongering, and you're creating, things to kind of, to create gossip around people, and becoming the influencer, I don't think people don't acknowledge these people as somebody who can be getting into the film sector, or into this industry. The content creators are heavily respected in India. The people who diversify their comedy sketches, or open out scripts and use their own voice and not just dub smash into creating content, those are respected more. And those are also picked up by casting directors and some of the people who are trying to put in money. Like, say that if I give you $1 million and say that, okay, now you make a film, you would pick artists who are commercially viable, because you want tickets to be sold, right? So and nowadays, I don't think people remember movie stars as much as the content creators, because uh, it is out of sight, out of mind. There's so many people who are out there, and whom do you carry forward with, whom do you resonate with? You have to kind of be a jack of all trade, but you need to master one. You need to excel in one. That is for sure, because otherwise, people don't have the memory, and also the bandwidth to remember so many people. Because quite honestly, when you watch something, and it is a human psychology to kind of label people. Oh, this one is a negative person. This is a positive person. Oh, this is a dancer. This is an actor. Or this is a CA. Or, oh, he's a podcaster now. So people they want to simplify things. We, as human beings, we like things which are simple, right? So, in terms of getting away from their work life, if somebody is giving that comic relief, is giving that entertainment, people are definitely going to watch more of that person. And the more you watch that person remains in your memory, and hence that becomes, a more recalled artist. And even as casting directors or as producer, they're like, let's call that person.
I find it so fascinating how stars are created, how attention is grabbed, how engagement is generated. And I think with social media nowadays, you have different formats and screens versus mobile phones versus laptops versus the TV screen versus the movie screen.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be watching 2 or 3 screens at the same time.
Which is why, sorry to cut
No,
you,
please.
but it's too much for artists to do things by themselves. They hire a PR firm, so that multiple channels, multiple, social media platforms, and in different, like, horizontal or vertical formats, things are talking, like, spoken about them, and people are talking about them. And through podcasts, through reels, through spotted here, to they are papped here, to, various things people do to kind of stay seen, relevant, and talked about more than their films. If you're talking about stars, that's how stars are created. But if you're talking about actors, actors are created with hard work. It's a lot of hard work. You have to forget. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so difficult to keep reminding yourself that you are this entity, and giving that name to the public and being in that public eye. When do you have time to work on this? Because if you're not acting, if you're not having a successful film, what are you going to do with so much money invested in this PR? Because eventually you will snowball into just a failed PR game, not an actor. I know so many of them in the last, whatever observation, in this one decade, I have observed people who are famous. But if you see their work, you're like, what was that? And they're still talked about. if you see their films, if you see their craft, if you see their language, if you see their ethnicity that they are picking, and then the vocabulary that they are having, or the kind of accent work that they are doing, there is so much work that you can do, and so much happens outside of the Sobo. Being in the city, you will know, like between South Bombay to Bandra, there's only work happening there, scripts happening there, and there's so much life outside Sobo. And like how in Thar there was I tried to put Marwari accent. In Life Will Gaye, I tried to put in Pahadi accent because that girl was Uttarakhandi. Here the girl was Marwari and Rajasthani. So you have to get out of the city. You have to travel. You have to be accessible to to become an actor. You have to become people. You have to know their lives to become, those characters, to kind of live those experiences and then give it out to them and then entertain and then be a part of stories that the directors want you to be part of. But when it comes to how to stay relevant, I think you can create what you want. You can have like hot pictures and all those things you can post once in a while. But when your work releases, the work should speak for itself and not otherwise. Because if you've been talked about so much, and when your work releases and you're like, okay, that's it. Okay. So that is something that I hope I never get to serve, because I, I stood in the line and I used to be a number. From that to people remembering my name, I respect that a lot. I have gone through a process and I've come from people. And people have chosen me, they have voted for me, they have one reality show after the other, which is why I just focused on not being seen and working on my craft. Now I'm very sure of, if I am seen, I'm seen after a preparation, or during a show, or through my social media. Beyond that, I have no idea how to make myself a star or all that. I don't know. It's an idea of how other people have been so far. But I just see myself as an actor of really, like, I just want to work hard and I want to be my director's delight. I just know how to serve that. I'll be like, okay, I'll prepare the best dish. I'll just have the best characteristics. I can just work on my accent, work on my emotion, work on my interpersonal relationship. All those things that in the realm of my storytelling, I can be a part of. Beyond my performances, I love collaborating with people. I love building, relationships or somehow events, and creating workshops, a method, a crafty system, which is more like coming from the practitioner himself or herself, you know. And this is why I created a shelter called Mukti Manch, because I felt the need to have a safe space where nobody's judging you, nobody's perceiving you as you are this or you are that, but people are just having a good time exploring ideas and exploring um, their craft and devising a way to tell a story through movement, through cracking a monologue, through finding their own breath and emotion through navrasa, or through abhinaya. Abhinaya also means to carry forward.
If someone hasn't picked up by now, there's a science to the art form that you're performing, and I think it's I really appreciate how you've articulated that. But to have a space like this beautiful studio we're in, which we're very grateful for to be using, like Mukti Manch, where you can be creative and fail and get live feedback from the people that you're experimenting with, you're returning back to the purest form of creativity, where there's no commercials, there's no nothing. It's just you guys in this room trying to do something. And from your respective professionals as well, so you all have the same training, or perhaps you're just learning from those that have training and starting to build up your own career. So I can imagine a place like this is like a haven, a safe haven for actors to be able to practice their craft. I think it perfectly represents you, because with all the things that you've been doing so far to then create a space like this to say, right, I did this for so many years. Now you come here and practice and perform.
Actually, I'm quite selfish. I wanted to come back to ground zero, and I wanted that to be my home. Because as an actor, you have to come back to zero. You have to you start from the scratch again and again. And no matter how much you build, you have to always be like, okay, enough, keep that aside. Let's go back and build another character. That Zen mode and that practicing and finding your, that unison and that balance. Somehow, I think the kind of sleep I have here, the kind of visualizations that I can do here, I don't think nowhere on this planet I can have that. This is my comfort space.
It's an amazing space. But it's just before we get to the final question, I wanted to explore the concept of entrepreneurship with you. We kind of mentioned right at the start, dancer, actor, and entrepreneur with Mukti Manch. Do you perceive yourself as an entrepreneur with all the things that you're doing, or do you still see yourself as, well, I'm a creative, so I just create and I let the world speak for itself?
I surely started with that energy, but now that I understand other aspect of things, I think commerce is really equally important. And as much as I want to acknowledge that I want to be in the creative realm only, but I feel there's a lot of freedom in choosing when you start to, after you have learned, right? When you start to earn, is when you have the freedom to kind of, okay, now I think I can expand till here. Maybe I can, get into productions. Now maybe I can buy more lights. Now I can buy more cameras, better lenses, better, people I can collaborate with. And a certain leeway I can give, to people who are really close to me. And those are the things that I can financially take those decisions. And because I'm not just relying on my acting career, because at start, till the time you don't have like a massive hit, you can't even demand, by the way. And even after you have, knowing from other people's journey is what I'm gauging in, that I don't think you can ever expect something which is making you learn will make you earn as well. And I'm all for working with only those directors who make me learn. So I know it for sure that I did not join this industry so that I could be famous or become super rich. I knew this is a lot of hard work, like ever since I was a child. I'm here to, again, to be that sponge and to be that person who can work with the best, the finest, not just in the country, but even globally. I'm just literally ready as, as somebody who can be as transparent. All you need to do is that give me that light, and that prism is just waiting to give the rainbow out. I want to have that emptiness in me so that I can perform as well. Otherwise, the right brain always know the numbers. I always know, okay, what kind of a platform I'm serving on. Is it camera? Is it vertical? Is it YouTube? Is it stage? Is it a brand work? Is it, counted on seconds? So you know how to give action reactions. And if it has a process, then how much time it's going to require. All those things comes with money, and with money comes freedom. Let's just face it. Who doesn't like it?
Absolutely. Mukti, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I've
you
really
so much,
appreciated it. And we always finish the show with a final question that we say to every guest. And that question is, if your 18-year-old self had a conversation with your 80-year-old self, what would that conversation be about?
My father always told me one thing. In the first part of your life, learn. Second part of your life, you earn. And in the third, you return. And as an 18-year-old girl, I used to learn, and I'm still learning, and I'm every day evolving. And I'm proud of you, girl.
It's a wonderful way to end. Thank you very much, Mukti.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.